So recently, I saw an ad on YouTube that inspired me to make this video. The ad was for a company called Goodfair, which is a clothing company that advertises used clothing instead of brand new clothing, owing to the fact that major clothing companies, by disposing of used clothes and shipping new ones, sometimes overseas, contributes massively to the climate crisis, and they view their mission as to eventually reduce ocean pollution and to dramatically lower carbon emissions in the industry. And while their portrayal of the clothing industry and its carbon footprint is relatively accurate, it relies entirely on people making the switch to this new company. And given the massive profits annually of some of the clothing giants, it would take a lot of people switching in order to actually make a meaningful impact. They do mention that toward the end of the ad, Topper Luciani, the CEO of Goodfair, mentions that if enough people join or switch to Goodfair, then that could be enough to curb the climate crisis. However, it's not that easy, because as Michael E. Mann, an atmospheric science professor, writes for Time magazine, quote, "The bigger issue is that focusing on individual choices around air travel and beef consumption heightens the risk of losing sight of the gorilla in the room, civilization's reliance on fossil fuels for energy and transportation overall, which accounts for roughly 2/3 of global carbon emissions. We need systemic changes that will reduce everybody's carbon footprint, whether or not they care." In other words, what Professor Mann is pointing out here is that climate change is not a problem that individuals can solve on their own. It actually requires not just legislation from the government, but actual action by corporations and big polluters. In fact, a study several years ago came out, just 100 corporations are responsible for nearly 3/4 of global carbon emissions. So it's clearly not a problem of the individuals, at least not nearly as much as it is a problem of corporate America. And we see several corporations that are essentially trying to pawn off their responsibility to exacerbating the climate crisis. We see companies such as Nestle and Ernst & Young encouraging their companies to participate in Veganuary, or when throughout the month of January, people are encouraged to follow a plant-based diet. Well, yeah, this Nestle, and also, yes, the Ernst & Young that has been paid over $1 million over the last 4 or 5 years to lobby on behalf of ExxonMobil and Valero Energy. Yeah, these companies are encouraging you to do a plant-based diet without confronting their own actions that only exacerbate climate change. So the point of making this video, it's not to malign the intentions of companies like Goodfair. It's not to malign the intentions of people who are choosing to shop at more sustainable stores in certain industries. It's not to malign the intentions of people who may choose to adopt a plant-based diet. It's not maligning the intentions of people who are trying to change their behaviors or to reduce their own personal carbon footprint. In fact, if that's what you want to do, I think that's great. But at the same time, recognize that it's not enough. And the point of this video is to have people understand that it's an issue that requires larger cooperation from the international community, certainly legislation from Congress, but also corporate accountability. And the reason I'm making this video as a discussion video is because I want to pose the question: is it worth it to change our behaviors when it comes to the environment when we know that it's not enough? Is it worth it to lead by example if our impacts are frankly minimal at best? Is it worth it? And I think that's definitely a question that needs to be asked, because I think a lot of people do it with good intentions, and I don't want to malign them for that. And I think that you should absolutely, if you're encouraging other people to do it, I think that's fine. But people should not try to act like, I'm just reminded of this episode of South. I'm a big South Park fan. If you saw my banner on my YouTube page, you probably knew that. But there's an episode of South Park. It's called Smug Alert. It's a pretty good episode. I don't know if it's one of my favorites, but it's a pretty good one. Where Gerald, Kyle's dad, if you're in a South Park, I don't know too much about it. He gets a hybrid, and then everyone in South Park gets a hybrid, and then everyone gets hybrids, and they're all smug about it. Yay! I'm helping the environment because I'm driving a less polluting car, or something like that. But it's a cartoon. Obviously, it's played for comedy. But the question is, do people who are making these personal changes about like their environment, do they see themselves as heroes? And I think for a lot of people who are making those changes, they don't see themselves as heroes, but they see themselves as people who are leading by example. And I think that's an important question to ask, because when you see ads for companies like Good Fare, it definitely does give you a sense of hope that you can do something in the fight against climate change. But when you look big picture, your actions as an individual are minimal. And it's just a fraction of the population of a community. Changing their behaviors is not gonna go a ways in terms of combating the existential threat of climate change. It's something that actually requires action from people in power, from large corporations. And no, that does not include big polluters encouraging their employees to adopt a plant-based diet. That is just pawning off responsibility at best. So, it's definitely something that should be talked about, because I think there is vilification of a lot of people for like, oh, you're an environmentalist, but you drive a car, or like you I don't know, that was maybe not the best example, but I think you understand what I'm trying to say. Well, maybe we should start by stop vilifying people, like individuals, when we know who the real problem is. But the question still remains: is it worth it to change our behaviors in order to take a stand against climate change? I don't know how to pronounce it, because it's not like changing our individual behaviors is going to combat it. And that's really the question I have. I don't really have an answer. I think in some ways it's definitely easy, like maybe turn your car off when you're not using it, like no idling. I think that's fair. But when it comes to veganism and vegetarianism, I eat meat almost every day, so I am in no place to speak on that. So I think there are plenty of areas in which this question can be discussed, but I'm interested in hearing what you guys have to say. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'm interested in seeing that. And yeah, and look, if you want to shop at companies like Good Fare, and if you want to like go vegan, I support your choice 100%. I'm not, again, I want to be very clear, I'm not saying that you have poor intentions or anything. I'm just saying that it's important to recognize that sometimes it's not enough. And I think that that's something that's a harsh reality a lot of people need to face. But I pose the question to you nonetheless. Should we even try, just for the sake of setting a good example for others, even if we know the impact will be minimal at best? So, with that in mind, thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, comment, with your thoughts on anything. Hit the subscribe button for more. Check me out on social media. I got those links down below. If you haven't seen my last 2 videos, you can check them out right over here. And that's all from me. I'll see y'all soon. Peace.